everyone, to another episode of the Adeptus Ridiculous Podcast. My name is DK Montes. His name is Bricky. And oh, would you look at that? It's the end of the month. Here's Kirioth. But before we get into that, if you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast and you want to support us monetarily, head over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous, where you get access to the Discord, bloopers if they happen. $15 tier gets you access to all of our posters in crispy HD digital form. It's great. You should check it out. Patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous. Bricky has things to tell you.
Yes, we are finally getting around to the book club. That will be it'll be coming out this weekend, so make sure you finish up Galaxy in Flames. I finished it up a while ago, so I'm gonna scrape the bowels of my brain for remembering the knowledge, but it is it is a thing we're gonna be talking about. And
I finished it this weekend. It's great.
It's pretty good. I think it might be my least favorite of the three, but it's not like bad at all.
Okay.
It's like that kind of variant, but we'll get into that.
We'll talk about
We'll
it.
get into that whole thing.
Yeah.
And also check out all of the merchandise and stuff over at orchidate.com. Links down in the description. Appreciate it very, very much. And go check out the stuff and things and stuff.
I love stuff and things.
Stuff and things.
Well, I want to bring something up quickly because I saw this comment the other day and I can't remember exactly where it was, and I apologize to the person that I've nicked this from. But
yes, World War I was 1914. I know.
Not that one. Not that one. Although
okay.
I have also seen a lot of those as well. But you always like advertise the posters as being like crispy HD.
Mm-hmm.
You're underselling it massively. As has been pointed out, specifically HD is like, it's like a specific resolution, but the posters are actually way higher resolution than that. They're actually better than your advertising. You're literally getting better than what you say, which is,
I mean,
is that a good thing?
I want to throw that out there.
Listen, like, I got a Steam Deck, and then there was the OLED Steam Deck. And I was like, oh, fancy new screen. And then didn't realize that they actually made like 39 improvements to the Steam Deck, including just fancy new screen. And I'm like, Gabe Newell, why didn't you advertise that? And I'm pretty sure somewhere in the world, he just kind of shrugged. And I'm like, that's cool. You know what? Sometimes you just need the people to find out.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, it is also technically correct.
Because imagine
you're
looking for one of our big boobed posters and you're like, wow, HD is what I'm going to get. And then you get to the Patreon, you pay the $15 fee and you're like, whoa, I got way more than I expected. What a deal. What a steal. I should tell all of my friends to Patreon. Right?
Some learning stuff.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I'll give you it.
Either way. So Kirioth, welcome back.
It's that time of the month again. It comes around increasingly quickly. Have you noticed it gets shorter every time?
Well, I think this one's a little bit unfair though, because it is February.
That's true. That's probably a big contributing factor.
This one is coming quicker because we are genuinely losing a few days.
Yep, literally a shorter month.
I don't like it. It makes it feel like life's getting shorter. It's not good. But that's a weirdly nihilistic view to take to
I was going to say,
that's
just after every day that passes. Cheerio.
Do you have any ideas what we're going to be talking about today?
I mean, I'm assuming it's not the new Emperor's Children rules that just got dropped today that look really cool.
It's not, because I've not read those yet.
Although you haven't?
I would 100% have derailed the start of this had I done so.
They're great. I kind of want to read them, but I don't know. I think it's time for it at the moment.
This time round, I'm not going to do the usual giving of a quote because this is going to be a slightly different episode. People have been asking us to take a look at something, and there was a reveal, I want to say like a month ago now. I can't remember the specific date this came out, for the most hotly anticipated sequel of all time outside of Space Marine 2, all the other games and films. You remember Astartes, right? You remember the animation created by Simon Peterson, who did an amazing job.
Indeed.
And how much everyone loved it, right?
And also went along to either help co-make or be on the team or whatever it was for the Amazon Secret Level episode, as the inspiration was quite clear.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I feel like you could see the fingerprints all over that episode, like the way it was staged, the way it was like the kind of pacing of it. But there's been since then a nice little teaser trailer for Astartes 2, which I'm assuming you've seen.
Indeed, I have.
To be honest with you, I haven't even seen Astartes. Haven't seen the trailer for Astartes 2.
I'm actually more shocked you haven't seen the original Astartes. Like I could have sworn
Yeah.
I told you to do that at some point.
Well, if I have, I've completely lost it.
You're being told the exact opposite by
Made
Shy.
commentary for it?
You
Wow,
watched
did he
it?
make commentary for it? How long ago was that?
I mean, it was probably a few years, but
yeah, it would have been a little while. But apparently you're wrong. You have definitely seen it, and there is recorded evidence. So that's something. Something to.
It's the video where the dude falls to like gets corrupted, gets punched in the face.
Oh, right. Okay, no, I do remember that, and we ended up not using it. Yeah. No, I remember it now.
Oh, okay. You didn't use it.
Yeah, we ended up not using it.
It's lost to time.
It's lost to time. That's right.
Is this where we discovered that anything not put out immediately vanishes from DK's memory? So if you record something and it doesn't get published, that then wipes it from your brain, because that is a dangerous problem to have.
Hold on. I am gonna watch this Astartes 2 trailer right now.
Watch it.
Wow, that trailer's really good. Wow.
That first series was, I think it's fair to say, one of the most impactful things for 40k as a whole, right? When it comes to kind of getting Warhammer 40,000 out there, when it comes to, I guess, the IP or even just the brand as a whole, reaching people for the first time, you cannot move for Astartes reaction videos on YouTube. You absolutely can't. You search for it, and the search results are dominated by people who never looked at Warhammer before, have no experience of 40k, don't know anything about it, but Astartes came out. Astartes went absolutely crazy, went absolutely everywhere, and people just started reacting, talking about it. It spread like wildfire. And yeah, as Shai points out, that's it, especially since Games Workshop removed the original from YouTube when they brought the creator over to work for them, took the original down, and then uploaded it on its own kind of website as part of the Warhammer community, Warhammer animation stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like don't get me wrong, it's an extremely good animation, and therefore would most likely end up having a bunch of views for that reason alone. But I am in full belief that the ridiculous streaming service crap that they pulled around that time definitely helped increase its popularity a little bit, just due to the fact that was what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
Because it was
a reaction to it being removed was it sort of propagating quite heavily.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the fact that it got the fact that okay, they brought them on to Warhammer Plus, which I still believe to be a terrible offering. And then immediately you can't remove something, right? Like from the internet, you just can't do that. People will re-upload it, as you've seen. So it's just I don't know. It's almost like a moot point. Why would you even do that besides causing bad will to your company? So it's strange, but also it is just a good anime. What is that one animation with the clowns? It's the weird jester animation. It's kind of like Kitty. Kind of like a kid style one. No,
I don't know that one.
Yeah, circus something. Balance circus, something like that. I don't quite remember, but that is something that I saw because it had 200 million views and everyone reacted to. You couldn't escape that. Similarly, how you couldn't escape Has Been Hotel when that came out.
Oh yeah, you really couldn't.
Yeah, if you will remember those days.
I do, when there was only one episode.
Yeah, so that was its own shtick.
Yeah.
The Amazing Digital Circus. Thank you, Shai. I was losing my mind on that one. But yeah, anyway, continue, Kirioth.
It's also something as well where it's there wasn't really anything of that type before. Like, I know there's been fan animations and there's been long-running series to do with either 40k or Space Marine specifically, but there was just something about Astartes that felt very different to a lot of the other stuff that had sort of come before it, which I think helped a lot with kind of grabbing the imagination of a lot of people. And it also had just, the full brutality and ridiculousness of Space Marines as a whole laid out in a very easy to digest sort of layout. That kind of thing of, you don't know what these things are, but you do know that they can just absolutely rip through an entire army of people without taking a single loss. That by itself is like, it's presented in quite a heavy way, but it still felt like a decent story at the same time, which I think is sometimes harder to do when it comes to trying to show off, like when you've got something that's not quite overpowered necessarily, but something like Space Marines. It just makes things, I don't know, it presents it in a way that's very easy to digest. Plus, punching the Psyker in the face has become, I think, one of my favorite clips from anything ever. It's just perfect.
I do like that clip a lot, just because it's a very like, this is a problem. I'm going to handle it as fast as I possibly can. And that means reaching for the bolter is too slow for this situation. And so
with an Astartes, it's believable because it's like, of course they would punch someone's head into a fine mist.
Yeah,
look at them.
It's very good. Plus, I think it was one of those one of the few series that showed a more grounded Astartes thing. You ever notice that very rarely hear like the power pack? Whenever I read the books, they always talk about the power pack making like a teeth grating sound. It's always like kind of this like weird thing. I'm always like, I wonder if they're going to like put the power pack sound in, because it's kind of
thought about that. I wonder if it would just be too annoying. Like too high-pitched whining.
I agree.
Like, oh my god!
I fully agree.
We've got to cut this out.
I think it's 100% one of those situations where you just don't do it because it would just be awful for the audience.
Yeah.
I remember when I first got into Warhammer, I thought everybody just had a jump pack, and it was just like, oh yeah, everybody needs a jump pack. Everybody needs to around and fly, and nope.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, so Astartes 2.
Yes. So we've got the trailer. We also have more information on the trailer, which kind of makes it it is still a trailer. It is still the trailer for Astartes 2, but it's like a prequel because the new animation isn't going to have any of the clips shown in said trailer, which is a choice, but it does set things up quite nicely to do a bunch of speculation, especially when there are multiple different chapters shown off in said trailer, which we're gonna go through the chapters that are involved, what their behaviors are like, and then sort of see if we can work out what the end result is going to be from these various chapters or characters from these chapters showing up together. So from the Warhammer community site, they said explicitly this teaser trailer is not actually clips from the new animation, instead showing a compilation of shots that represent the former lives of the characters that will appear in the show. So we've got effectively prequel material for something that will show up, and I hate to say this out loud because it sucks to say it out loud, in 2026. So it's going to be a little while.
Yeah, but it takes time to make this stuff, so it is what it is.
I did notice that at the end of the trailer, you had the Terminator, but it had an inquisitorial seal on the head, so it assumes Death Watch. So I can very much see the concept of this some kind of Death Watch related show, considering the fact that it's a bunch of people from their various lives. They all join together. They go back into Death Watch. Even funnier considering they axed Death Watch in the game like a bit ago and then brought them back, and then they won the biggest tournament in the world. It's so Death Watch roller coaster has not ended anytime soon.
I mean, that's peak Games Workshop, though, isn't it? That is absolutely okay. We're gonna bring focus to this thing that doesn't actually currently really exist in the form that you would expect it to. Like, for instance, the Total War Warhammer games and the fact that Warhammer Fantasy wasn't a thing when those started coming out.
Yep,
which again,
they had just done End Times when they started really going into Total War Warhammer, and it's like, whoops.
quite the choice. Quite the choice on their part.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've put in the chat, we've got the Terminator helm at the end, plus the quote at the beginning, which is many brotherhoods united in purpose, we are the shield that slays, which again is a very Death Watch style statement. It could technically apply to just Space Marines as a whole, but we know full well that Space Marines as a whole, there are plenty of chapters that do not get on and plenty of characters that do not get on with each other, whereas that statement is a bit more like unequivocal of the idea of a specific brotherhood for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So for the actual chapters that we've got, we have the Retributors, which are the guys from the first Astartes animation, grey armor. They've got the gold skull in the kind of clawed fist on the shoulder pad. We also have the Scythes of the Emperor, who are the guys with the like yellow breastplate and black arms and legs.
Actual chapter, that one, I think, right?
Yes. So one of the things that's kind of interesting is that of the 5 chapters shown, they're all successors. Retributors are in an interesting spot because they started out as obviously fan made, but it's now a thing where they are part of a property that is owned by Games Workshop at the very least.
Yeah, therefore they're now canon.
Now canon.
Yeah. So was it the call book where we read about some of the Scythes of the Emperor?
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah. The Scythes were in the Great Work.
Yeah, some of the last remnants of the Scythes were in that book, right?
Yeah.
They have had a time of it, which we'll get into in a minute. There's also the Angels Vermilion, which when I first saw the trailer, I assumed Blood Angels.
I thought Flesh Tearers.
Yeah, I assumed Blood Angels.
It's the black helm is slightly different. Plus, there is a slight change in the symbol on the pauldron. There's a slight change where the blood tier has got a little skull in it, which is Angels Vermilion. They also change their the color of their helm depending on what they do. So the assault marine in that clip of going down the ice corridor with the jump pack, which is a badass clip, the helmet being black makes sense for that chapter. We've also got the Sons of Medusa, who are the dudes in green with the white helmets who made Predators cool again.
A buddy of mine has a Sons of Medusa army, like an actual Sons of Medusa army, is its Iron Hand successors.
They're very fun.
They're
some
pretty
fun
cool.
chapter history.
They're pretty cool. They like their tanks.
Oh yeah, well yeah. They like keeping the machine spirit happy. And the other one is the Mortifactors, who are. I'm so happy to see Mortifactors getting some attention because Mortifactors are brilliant. They are one of the most insane Space Marine chapters. There's a couple of. It feels like in this kind of list, you've got ranges in terms of how insane the chapters are. The Retributors, relatively, I would say, seem relatively normal. The Size of the Emperor, an interesting and very different past, but they operate as you might expect most Space Marines chapters to. The Sons of Medusa, weird past, but mostly kind of above board. And then you get to the Angels Vermilion and the Mortifactors, who are just full on mad. Practices that should not be done by Space Marines. You shouldn't be doing that. That's borderline heresy, but we'll let it slide kind of levels of interesting practices off both of those chapters. That's a great bit of art for that Mortifactor.
I was about to ask the guy that has the skull helmet, that's a loyalist?
Hans. Are we the baddies?
Are we the baddies?
Well, okay, so you say the guy with the skull helmet, we don't have chaplains that are.
That's true. Chaplains are just skull helmeted. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, they're definitely. I think it is more the fact that is some dude's skull literally strapped onto the dude guy's head. I mean, I'm assuming it's a Space Marine Scout, but I don't know. I don't know what they're getting up to. Is it more or less heretical than the Exorcists, Kirioth? Because that's.
I don't know. I don't know. It feel that I'm not going to say they're like completely on a par, but they're not. They're not that far off. So the Mortifactors. Let's start with the Mortifactors because they are mental. I love them. So they're the ones with the black and bone armor. They've got the skull symbol in the really cool sort of shot of the different helmets. That's the one that's got the skull like face painted onto the front of the helmet. They have a bunch of practices that kind of call them into question somewhat. So they're a second founding chapter, and they were founded by someone who just consulted the Emperor's tarot and went, okay, I've got readings off this. Let's go to this world called Posel and we'll found a chapter, which already questionable way of doing that sort of thing, but that's what they went for. They technically follow the Codex Astartes very closely, but they have slight quirks which are kind of a result of the culture of that place. So they have something called the Basilica Mortis, which is a fortress monastery, a massive style fort, and it is filled with row upon row of engraved skulls that were taken from fallen space marines, and the main chapel is filled with the skulls of enemies that they've taken after a victory. So straight away,
hell yeah,
they're like skull kleptomaniacs. They just nick people's skulls after they've killed them or after they've lost some of their own marines. They love collecting skulls and engraving them with stuff.
Huh. Okay, so they're the bone collector, the skull collectors, the faction.
Yeah, pretty much. They really like collecting skulls. But they have some issues around the use of different like cultural things from their world. So there are some things that you think, okay, well this is very sensible. So meditating before battle, that actually sounds like a fairly sensible thing to do. Specifically, it's to try and commune with the Primarch and their ancestors. That becomes a bit more of a problem.
Well, that's very Warhammer coded.
It is. It's not, and it's also not the worst thing. They also enjoy drinking the blood and eating the flesh of their enemies after they've battled them.
Well, it's a treat. Let's let them have their fun.
It's just a little treat, yeah.
Everyone deserves a reward, right? And obviously, of course, they then take the head off them and take all the skin off the heads so that they've got their skulls, as you do.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yes. I forgot to mention which Primarch that actually is. So that's fun.
For some reason, when I thought you said communing with your Primarch, I think I was still mentally on Sons of Medusa. So I was like, that makes sense. Like Ferrus Manus is dead. Like they try to like commune with him or something. It's like Gilgamesh is out there doing taxes or whatever, and then these guys are drinking the blood to try to talk to him, and he's just like, what the hell?
What is going on?
Please stop.
Just boot up the TurboTax app, guys. Jesus.
me walking up to the entire AdMech society, showing them Microsoft Excel, and then fixing all of their problems and or dying because it's heresy.
Oh, you'd get so clipped for being a heretic.
Yeah, I'll get murdered.
Mm-hmm.
So they eat flesh, they drink blood, they collect skulls, they engrave them. These are all things that could be seen as being slightly problematic. They also have a practice regarding their neophytes where they're not allowed to wear helmets. No helmet if you're a neophyte. That's not allowed. You also are simply referred to as the faceless if you're a neophyte. They don't allow them to have names, so they don't learn their names. They will not learn neophytes' real names. They're also considered to be expendable, and they're not actually members of the chapter.
So what? Just like unpaid intern?
Basically, yeah. The Mortifactors operate on an unpaid intern approach, where it's just, we don't want to know who you are. You haven't done anything worthy. You haven't done anything of note, so you're not allowed a helmet. Now, get on the front lines. Off you go. Which, again, for a chapter that is mostly Codex compliant, that's a bit mad. But to be fair, once they actually are blooded, they do then get names. They stop being the faceless, and they can take the skulls of their trophy kills and wear them over their helmets. Much like that picture that Shai posted earlier, the dude in the undergrowth with someone's skull over his face. That's what you get to do.
You know what?
It's nice.
I mean, besides the massive amounts of college bullying, I think maybe it's all right to be these people.
I mean, you're essentially just getting turned into cannon fodder, right? You don't get a face, you don't get a name. Hey, go to the front lines. If you survive being cannon fodder, congratulations. I guess we don't care. Like that's
but
now we'll learn your name.
I'm built different though. I'd live.
Okay, Brady. All right, buddy. Okay.
No, I'd win.
Okay, pal. All right. Let's just move right along from that. Kirioth, what's next?
So there is one last thing for the there is one last thing for the Mortifactors that make them very fun, which is that they committed hard. They committed hard to the Third War for Armageddon, and they committed hard for a very specific reason. So the chaplains, who, by the way, they are the ones who do the recruitment, the chaplains, they also wear the skulls of Space Marines. So their skulls specifically on their helms are fallen Space Marines. And they also say that if you die, you'll be united with the Emperor. So a nice bit of proper, religious brainwashing going on, even by the context of the Imperium, pretty solid. So there was, in the run-up to the Third War for Armageddon, the entire chaplaincy of the Mortifactors fell into a trance on the Feast of the Emperor's Ascension. They were in this trance for a full 7 days. They then woke up. They said that the Third War for Armageddon would be the last battle. They then said to all of their underlings, here you go, look after the Fortress Monastery, and the entire chapter set off for Armageddon.
Ooh. Yeah, that is committing to Armageddon, isn't it? That is a full-on commitment.
Very Black Templars coded. Very just like let's send the fleet. How many? Yes.
Yeah, all of them.
We have 10 companies. How many do you want to send? I believe you already said the number 10. I just shouldn't have to explain further. Let's go. We need to leave right now. So yeah, Mortifactors, very fun. Very fun, very borderline heretical. Ultramarines are a little bit like, we're not sure. We're not sure about this. Feels like there's some heresy going on, but
yeah,
they are loyal and they are extremely they're extremely proactive in their defense of the Imperium, whether it's against orcs or Tyranids. I mean, in the trailer we see them fighting orcs, which obviously makes a lot of sense. There is like a little shot of one of them executing a Tyranid. It is worth noting as well that they like Tau, or they like killing Tau, because Tau have got the whole, guns from a distance thing.
Okay, what a
it's just
they like Tau,
there.
as in they like killing Tau, and I'm like, oh, yeah. For the smallest moment, I was like, oh, so maybe they have traded with them once in a situation that didn't go horribly wrong, and it's okay. No, they just like killing them.
Oh yeah, no, they love hunting Tau, because Tau have got the whole long range gun thing, and Mortifactors love killing stuff up close and personal. So it's a fun challenge to get in there and rip people in half. So they like doing that.
There's a small part in the Astartes trailer that kind of made me laugh a little bit. It's when they're fighting the orcs and he punches an orc in the face so hard just dies. Right after that, he kind of turns away and starts Sigma walking away, and then immediately an orc just jumps on his back and then starts beating the hell out of him. And I'm like, how did you not hear that him coming? Like he's probably screaming at the top of his lungs. Like
he's probably whining at the top of his lungs.
Yeah, it's like,
how did he?
Why'd you start walking away like that? It's a little bizarre, but I also very much enjoyed the oh, you mentioned Tau. There is a little Tau stealth suit in the trailer.
Yes, so the Sons of Medusa, we get a nice little kind of tableau of them fighting some Tau. We get some stealth suits. There's a dead one and a live one. I'm assuming most of the ones will end up dead eventually. But the thing is, the Sons of Medusa sections of the trailer, it's done the impossible. It's not really impossible, but it feels impossible at times. Predators. Actual predators on a highway, firing, and they've made predators cool again.
Well, yeah.
In the year of our Lord 2025, they're really hammering home that tracked/treaded tanks are cooler than hover tanks. We've known it to be true, but now they're showing it again.
I mean, man, I thought we already figured out that. I thought we were already making predators cool again once kick streaming became a thing.
Yeah, that's not making the episode.
As soon as you said that, Kirioth, I was waiting for a lull in your conversation so I could sneak that one in.
I mean, you're not wrong, but you know,
I'm making a note of like the rough time so I can go back and see if that's actually in the episode.
No, I mean, I feel like the Predator tank has always been an awesome looking tank. The problem for me was that it has like 20-year-old model syndrome. Where I'm sure you remember, Kirioth, they added those new Solar Auxilia like Lehman Russ tanks.
Yeah,
and it was like the almost identical to the regular Lehman Russ tank, but it was updated just perfectly. Or like the new Terminators, for example, it's just the right increase where it's the same but modern, and it was perfect. I feel like they just need to do the same thing with the Predator tank. They just got to give it a bit of a facelift. And then it'll be beautiful again. Speaking
I
of,
just keep looking at that picture now.
It's a good tank, man. It's a great tank. There are some of the grav tanks that like I'm okay with. I find the Repulsor Executioner to be kind of fun because it's just like has 19 million guns, and I find that to be quite humorous. But like I would not deny that the Repulsor Executioner, if it had big treads, would look cooler. But maybe that's the guard in me talking.
Yeah, there may be a bit of that bias as well going on here, to be honest. There's also, just a side note from that screenshot, there is a moment when they're traveling along where you can see one of them fire the Hunter Killer. The one in the back fires off his Hunter Killer missile, and it does the thing where it sort of fires, dips slightly, and then ignites and then shoots off. And that kind of little level of detail is what makes me like kind of the Astartes stuff so much. There's just little things where it's like, someone's really thought about that. They didn't need to add that. It wouldn't have like been missing if it wasn't there, but it is in there. And it's just another little nod to, I guess, the universe. I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah.
So the Sons of Medusa as a whole, they're interesting because they have a very different founding story to most other chapters in that they technically weren't really founded. So it wasn't set out, like they didn't set out to make a successor chapter to the Iron Hands. Instead, there was a civil war, or a civil conflict at least, which is called, and I'm going to mispronounce this, the Moire Schism. I'm just going to put it in and you can take your best guess. Moire, who knows?
Yeah, all of your guesses are fine.
Yeah.
It's a whatever word.
Yeah, there was a schism, which was like spread throughout all of the different branches of the Mechanicus, and it also spread to the Imperium factions that were like tied to it. So obviously the Iron Hands, very, very tied into the Adeptus Mechanicus as a whole, and the Iron Hands chapter was not doing so hot. they were effectively on the verge of ruining themselves in a chapter war. Just, one side against the other, the chapter tearing itself apart. However, the Great Clan Council was able to stop that from happening by getting everyone to just agree to split, and those who, didn't agree could just leave. That was it. It was just, you can just leave. We will never fight against each other. We won't take up arms against each other. You can just go and do your own thing. So essentially, nearly a third of the chapter split off from the Iron Hands to become a fleet-based kind of branch of that chapter. And they still were able to recruit, because they managed to get recruits from other successor chapters from the Iron Hands who also agreed with their stance over this schism that had happened. And by the time all of that was sorted out, there was a separate Iron Hands branch that were almost at chapter strength. So you had two chapters effectively, but it was actually one chapter because half of them were just dissidents. Which obviously is kind of a problem. That's not great. But after the High Lords of Terror were restored during the Age of Redemption, the Iron Hands that split off, they were just found to be all good. So they were still loyal, they were still fighting for the Imperium, they were fine, they could carry on going, and so the High Lords of Terror said that those Iron Hands that split off from the main chapter had a right to exist, and so they became the Sons of Medusa, and they got their own heraldry, and they are now a proper, full-on, technically successor chapter, but not really, because they're like a mix of original Iron Hands who split off, and a bunch of Marines from other Iron Hand successors. So in terms of foundings, they're really weird. They're very different.
That's the least Imperium founding I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Nothing about that sounds right.
So I'm assuming very obviously
there wasn't an actual civil war. They didn't actually kill each other.
Yeah.
The High Lords actually just said, it turns out you're good. It is very, not how the Imperium does stuff. 99 times out of 100.
Luft Huron is, losing his shit to hearing this right now. He's just like, what the hell, guys?
Taxes!
Me?
But do they ever, fight? Or is it just oh yeah, you told us we could split off, we're splitting off. Let bygones be bygones. We'll still help you. Or is there some infighting between these two at all?
They're not necessarily loved, but there isn't really anything in the way of infighting. They've proved themselves loyal to the Imperium.
Huh?
They've defended the Imperium. They haven't necessarily gone after other Space Marine chapters or other Iron Hand successors. They've sort of done their own thing in terms of we're splitting off from the Iron Hands as a whole, but aside from that, remarkably not an absolute nightmare for everyone involved, which, is very, very not Imperium. So there's also they took part in the Badab War on the side of the Loyalists, so that's quite a big thing.
That helps.
That helps a lot. They have some, really close ties to the Adeptus Mechanicus, and it's heavily implied that they share the belief of the machine god, higher than the Emperor, and they are very good scavengers. They have one of everything you could possibly think of, pretty much. Just any vehicle you can think of, they'll most likely have one, because they can scavenge anything, and they love attacking renegade chapters because they can wipe them out and then take all of their stuff and just be like, all these land raiders are mine now. Tough. They're very good at it.
Okay. Yeah, that's they're weird.
Yeah, I don't really have much I wish I could say about this.
Yeah.
Because it's such a, I mean, for one, maybe if this was what would happen from an Ultramarine successor, but an Iron Hands one, they are notably excessively unforgiving. You know, like I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like of all of the types of chapters that I would 100% be like, there's no way they would let this slide. It would be the Black Templars of some sort, the Dark Angels, and then the Iron Hands. And so that's just strange.
What you mean. It's such a significant outlier in so many different ways. It's just not how the Imperium does stuff. It really doesn't feel like how the Iron Hands would do stuff. It also doesn't feel like
it's like how the Tau would do stuff.
Oh,
you know.
I wonder if it's literally just a case of the Iron Hands looking at an impending chapter war that could obliterate them completely and going, look, I don't necessarily want to have to do this, but we might have to just not fight because otherwise we will end up being completely destroyed and the Iron Hands will be gone. Like, just self-preservation for once just massively took over.
Could be like a, I don't know, it might makes me think of the Emperor and like the Admech. Like, maybe I could do this, but honestly, I'd rather just sign the Treaty of Olympus Mons.
Yeah.
Just this will deal with the problem quickly and now, and let's just go. Shove them out. You can go over there. Yeah. So the actual civil war was like obviously a religious thing. Combined the ecclesiarchy into one organization with Mechanicus, which is quite big. That's quite a significant ask.
Yeah.
Quite a significant ask.
That puts a different spin on the union between Terra and Mars. Sure.
I do really like that quote as well, Shai. I trust these automata weapons far more than any mortal ally. Their machine spirits have served our chapter faithfully for centuries and are sure to stand where mortal hearts succumb to fear. Just like us, they know no fear.
Ooh, put that on all the heraldry. Wave that banner. That is a dope quote.
Just what Ferrus Manus would have wanted. Wait, no, hang on.
Wait, hold on.
Getting a little ahead of yourself, aren't we?
Ferrus Manus really was in over his head, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Check your bingo cards, everyone. We got our Ferrus Manus head jokes out.
Let's go. So, no head?
Does that one count?
No, I don't know anymore. What's the oh crap? What is it? I like the looking at the various, because I'm assuming this episode is talking about the various chapters in the Astartes 2 animation, correct?
Yeah. So we're kind of going through what's presented in what the lads are, and then probably what we think they'll end up doing in the actual show.
Scythes of the Emperor, we don't need too much background on.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because we did read the Belisarius call book.
Yes.
maybe for the viewers who did not read the Belisarius call book, we should do a little refresher. But for the most part, they're I'll be honest, I don't think they're that cool. I'm a little bit of a downer on them. Maybe it's because they all got like walloped super badly by the Nids. But actually, come to think of it, were the Scythes the ones fighting the Nids in the trailer?
So yes.
Oh, maybe we get a little one of the surviving members of the Scythes survive the Nid invasion on their planet, and then now as part of the Death Watch or something. It would make sense. They would know how to fight the Nids. Come to think of
this kind of asks the question as well, especially given what we know of the Scythes. So we know that the Scythes effectively have no firstborn Marines left. They're Primaris only. They've had a rough go of it. They've not had the best time. They got absolutely annihilated by the Tyranids. They had an issue where a considerable number of them were messed up by the Gene Stealer Kiss, which they had to wear psychic hoods to deal with that. There's a lot of bad times for the Scythes of the Emperor, but given that there aren't, as far as we know, any firstborn left, and the old Gene Seed has just been locked away, and they are effectively a new chapter but with an old name. Are we gonna see Firstborn for Astartes 2, or are we gonna see them graduate to Primaris, and it's gonna be a Primaris size of the Emperor?
Well, based on the image that Chai posted, that small clip, one, they do have baller capes.
They do.
It's true.
They all have the as the poor Hammer guys would put it, the piggy helmet. And so
Hey.
I think it's the Vader helmet for me, but that's fine.
Yeah, it's definitely a Vader helmet.
But I mean that clearly, I mean the piggy helmet, Vader helmet, whatever, is a firstborn helmet. So, but they look like they're on the planet that had the Nids, so this could be a pre-tragedy situation.
Yeah.
And so it's very, because I was thinking so they do show off Death Guard in the like a good amount of Death Guard kind of occult leader people in the trailer. It kind of makes me, if I had to make an assumption, it seems like it's a Death Watch thing because all of the chapters are fighting some form of Xenos. You have the Scythes against the Tyranids, you had the Blood Angel dudes against the Orcs, and then you had the Sons of Medusa against the Tau. And then the Retributors, I guess they kind of fought that other Xenos race that with the big balls in Astartes.
Yeah.
And so in a sense they're all Xenos, which makes sense that they would join the Death Watch because that's anti-Xenos.
That's
fighting.
what they do.
And then I kind of wonder if it's going to be like a bit of a, you Death Watch company are now in the modern day, but you have to fight Death Guard, which is a chaos enemy, which you're not prepped for. And that is going to be like the twist to make it difficult for them or something. I don't know.
I think that makes sense. Seeing all the different chapters, all the different Space Marines, all the different Xenos, that makes sense. And especially like, all the way they're kind of hyping it up with the quote and all the faces. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's most definitely just seems like, because you normally like hear all these people who are really good at this one thing, but now they're not good at this thing because of reason.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, because it does make sense that we saw a Death Watch symbol, and then all of these factions were fighting different Xenos.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, but we got like a wide spread. I mean, within that one trailer, we had the Tau. We had Tau, Tyranids, Orcs. There was no hint of Eldar, but that's fine. And we did also get to see a bit of chaos action as well. Additionally, the fact that the Retributor didn't seem to be having a great time against that Chaos Marine was actually quite fun. Just having that moment of him being sort of slammed down, because I think sometimes Games Workshop lean very hard into kind of like, yeah, okay, but the Space Marines do very well. Look at them go. And it felt like quite a few of them did not have the best time in that trailer. I mean, the poor guy who got beat to death by 3 orcs.
That's his fault. He wasn't listening. He wasn't listening. That's his own.
He was
fault.
not paying attention.
He was not
damn
paying
overhead,
attention.
man. You've got all these computers in your helmet that are telling you what to do and where everything is. Just listen to him. And man's like, no, I'm
I don't need to
celebrate a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna hit that Serena Williams walk and let's go. Like, come on, man.
Serena Williams walk.
The one chapter that we didn't actually see fighting anyone, which I'm kind of a little bit. I would have liked to have seen something from the Angels Vermilion, because I mean, badass entrance from that guy for a start. Although we did get to see what looks like a Imperial Navy frigate maybe, and a Astartes battle barge, which was pretty cool in that section of the trailer. But like the Angels Vermilion, there's also, because of how weird some of these chapters are, it feels like there's very good scope for things to go off the rails regardless of who they're fighting in the end animation. So like the Angels Vermilion, they're Blood Angel successors. I mean, you could tell that from a mile away anyway, because apparently all Blood Angel successors just look exactly like Blood Angels. But there's also, the whole thing of like the Black Rage and the Red Thirst and so on. But the Angels Vermilion have a way of dealing with it, which is, again, borderline heretical. I say borderline. Is it borderline? So every 50 years, they drain the blood of a portion of Coronal, which is one of their worlds, and they drink it.
Wait, I'm sorry. They drain a portion of the blood of like the planet's population. Everyone goes to like a blood bank, and then they have to like, all right, it's that time again. Give us 20%.
It's worth pointing out, actually, I missed a word. They fatally drain the blood. So
what the hell?
Okay.
So what the hell?
That makes a difference. It is fatal, so they fatally drain the blood of a portion of the population.
Okay, that's leaning a little.
Or to be fair, they will also do it like soldiers from battlefields that the chapter have been on that have been deemed worthy to be killed by having all their blood taken away. And then they don't just drink it; they do also bathe in it. So they have a nice blood bath, literally. Then they sacrifice a sanguinary priest. Then they sort of have it injected into them using their power armor dispenser.
Okay.
So, there's some questionable practices going on here.
We're sure this isn't actually like, a chaos band that worships corn or something?
I mean, they reckon that it has allowed the chapter to reduce the number of battle brothers who fall to the Black Rage and the Red Thirst.
Okay.
They call it the sorrowing, so at least they know that it's messed up.
Okay, so
on the nose.
Wait, what's this? There are many among the Blood Angels chapter council who advocate efforts to establish closer ties to the Angels Vermilion. Yet for reasons known only to himself, Commander Dante has always refused.
It's not known only to himself. They literally drain people's blood, bathe in it, sacrifice one of their sanguinary priests, and then have it, put into their armor to be dispensed to them.
Okay,
to nourish them while they're fighting. It's not a mystery, is it?
Can I make a point here? Remember when the most evil thing that the fallen villain sorcerer in Lion Son of the Forest did was take a plant population and turn all of their bones into a small moon, and then use the iron in their blood to create big chains to hold down the lion. That was the biggest this guy has gone too far, we have to stop him moment there. And then we got these fuckers
who are fatally draining the blood of the 20% of the populace, you said?
Loyalists.
It's only every 50 years, all right?
Oh.
It doesn't say 20%. It's just a portion
Kirioth,
of the population.
That's one 100th Gath Rimmon trips. Every time every time one tourist gets the chance to go to Gath Rimmon, 100 times they have been drained.
Damn. Thank you for bringing that back.
Oh my god.
Wait, what the Angels Vermilion name this ceremony as they do for the burden that it places upon their own souls, knowing that so many innocents must be bled to hold their rage at bay. Oh, they feel bad. Oh, thank God.
Oh yeah, it's called the sorrowing. I mean, come on.
Well,
they know it's
that makes it okay then. Well, go about your business then, Angels Vermilion. We're square now. You feel bad about it.
Why can't they just do what the regular Blood Angels do to hold back the Black Rage, like meditation and just drinking some of it, and also going in the funny coffin. Okay.
There's a good quote which kind of lays out how the Angels Vermilion feel about this. So when he spoke again, it was quietly and under obvious self-control. You will return and tell Commander Dante that we remain loyal subjects of the Emperor, but we will not allow our chapter to die because of the ravages of the Red Thirst. Who are these people here? They are drops in an ocean of shifting blood. They will not be missed. Their sacrifice is nothing when set against 10,000 years of loyal service to the Imperium. Countless others like them would be dead if it were not for our tithe. Once every 50 years, we hold the sorrowing. That is all. Do not think this brings us pleasure. We name this ceremony as we do for the burden it places upon our souls, knowing that so many innocents must be bled to hold our rage at bay. We are monsters when we should be angels, and it torments me every day. But we live in an era beset by worse monsters, and if embracing the darkness will keep the light shining for a little longer, then it must be so.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, I mean that is a pretty convincing speech.
Fine, I guess.
You can have your bath of blood and sacrifice a sanguinary priest. Okay, you've convinced me. It's the sacrificing a sanguinary priest as well that gets me. It's like it's already awful, and then they're like, plus one of us has got to go.
Well, yeah, every 50 years. Well. What I'm just imagining that it's like someone kind of like oh crap. What's the baller blood angel dude from Master of Mankind?
Oh.
Zephin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just imagining it's like a sanguinary priest that just has like no limbs. And it's like, well, that fight with the Tyranids went really wrong, but it's all right. We'll deal with you in 50 years. We'll leave you for the sacrifice when it's time.
Oh God. It's such a mad chapter. Like when you look at the combinations here, I think it's fair to say that between the Mortifactors and the Angels Vermilion, there is high chance for shenanigans amongst this Death Watch kill team that is most likely being put together out of this lot. And when you look at all of them, the Retributors, absolutely bog standard normal for the most part.
I kind of thought they were Space Wolves at one point when they were that dude was walking by the Dreadnought. He kind of looked a little Space Wolf coded.
Yeah. I think also the armor color.
Yeah.
There's a lot to help with that.
That off bluish gray. You know. Yeah.
But yeah, the Retributors, from what's been said about them, sort of publicly, they are effectively a fleet-based chapter, descendants of the Imperial Fists, great at shock assault and high risk targeting, and they operate along the Eastern Fringe. And that's kind of pretty much it. They're pretty self-sufficient on the battlefield, and they like to go in independently and sort things out.
Eastern Fringe.
Like, that's very normal.
Eastern Fringe, what is that? Krons normally? I'm trying to remember. Their logo's great. I do like the skull and the fist. It looks really cool.
It's
really good. When are we going to get that in Space Marine 2?
Yeah. I mean, half the people who bought Space Marine 2 probably bought it because they watched the Astartes. So, like,
yep,
you know,
yep. I have run into a lot of like Retributor colored Space Marines, but the actual logo isn't in there. So there's various just kind of, it's a skull, it's a fist. That's fine.
Yeah, they seem pretty normal, pretty cool, pretty normal.
Yeah. No.
So
cool.
They do seem just like the dudes.
Yeah, they're Space Marines. They're good at what they do. Hooray! Look at our cool logo. Nice-oo.
Yeah, I can't really think about much past that.
I guess to be fair, outside of their kind of crazy backstory, the Scythes of the Emperor have turned into a relatively normal chapter as well at this point. Like, they're having their roots in kind of guarding Sotha and everything that happened after that, becoming, their own chapter during the Third Founding, then having all the issues with the Tyranids, and then effectively being replaced or like brought back in the Great Work and stuff. They don't like Tyranids. They hate Tyranids. They have pledged to, take vengeance on Tyranids as a whole. But outside of that, they're not all that unusual in the grand scheme of, Space Marine chapters, I guess. Like the Retributors on the sides of the Emperor, you've got fairly, I would assume at this point, standard within a certain deviance like practice for Space Marines. It's when you get to Sons of Medusa, it starts to get a little bit interesting and a little bit different, having the reverence of the Omnissiah and things that you wouldn't get from, I mean, you obviously expect it to some degree from Iron Hands, but there is an interesting history there, and there is a little bit of a shift from what you might expect from your standard Space Marine chapter. But then when you get to the Mortifactors and the Angels Vermilion, it just goes fully off the rails into what the hell are these chapters even doing, and how is it not classed as full-on heresy? Which, when you then take all of those five together and then stick them into what seems to most likely be a Death Watch kill team, potentially with the fact that it's a Terminator at the end. This is a big thing, because I want to know whether there is actually going to be a Terminator in this kill team, because it can just be a mixed kill team.
I mean, they don't gotta play by the rules, really. Like they could just put whatever they want. Like, it's a guild team, it's weird stuff going on. Whatever. It could be like the one of the Watchmasters. He's a Watchmaster in Terminator armor or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are things like that. I think okay, I'll be perfectly honest. I think they put it at the end there because they just wanted to make the audience go, whoa, it's a Terminator. Yeah. Instead of a regular Astartes. But
whoa, what's that fancy plate? Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure there will be a Terminator. What he does in it, I'm not sure. The irony that it's a Deathwatch Terminator as well, because they are also very overpowered in the game right now.
Oh, imagine if they went full
the
reverse.
Deathwatch or the Terminators?
The Deathwatch Terminators.
Oh, okay.
So in a Terminator squad, you can get like one Terminator that has like a big missile launcher backpack. And if you have like a squad of 10, you can get 2. For some reason, when you take a squad of 5 in Deathwatch, you get 3. So you're just like, I've just dropped this single squad of 5 Terminators down. Here's 6 missiles. Have fun, asshole. Hey, think fast, shit ass.
Yeah, that does seem quite good. Fair enough. Also, sorry, we interrupted you, Kirioth. What were you saying?
I was just thinking, imagine if they have the Terminator, but it turns into effectively a rescue mission because the Terminator has got some vital information or something, and he doesn't get to do anything. He's just half dead on the floor the whole time, and the rest of the squad has got to pick him up. I don't know whether I would find that hilarious or whether I'd just be very sad. I can't tell which it would be currently, but I also wouldn't put it past him.
I feel like I would be sad because if you're going to show a Termi in like an animation, you gotta let him ball. You gotta let him ball out because that's a Terminator, right? You gotta show how crazy those are.
I would prefer that by far. I want to see a Terminator punching things to death. That's what I want.
I really, really like, I agree with Shy. I really liked the Corvus Blackstar getting some time in the sun in the beginning of Space Marine 2. It's
such a cool vehicle.
It's one of the coolest flyers. And that the Space Marine 2 opening was like one of my favorite cutscenes in Warhammer stuff because it's just like, it's just so cool looking. And so I really wish, I really do hope we get to see more of the Corvus Blackstar because it's just an awesome looking fighter.
It really is.
It's a transport, but it looks kind of like just a genuine, like a dog fighter, but it's a transport.
Yeah. It gives me very stealth bomber vibes too.
Yeah, it looks like the B-52. Nope, that's the wrong one. Wait, is it the wrong one?
I don't know. That sounded right to me, but like
stealth bomber B2 close. Yeah, and I also agree. Deathwatch is one of the best places for Space Marine stories because you get conflicting personalities, and that creates turmoil and conversation, and that makes Space Marines seem more interesting than they tend to be in the 41st millennium compared to 30K.
Oh, yeah. And it gives you way more room to tell stories. So, like, you aren't exclusively bound to, like, if you were going to do, like, a good Boy Scout Ultramarines, you're kind of bound to, like, making them good boys. But, like, with Deathwatch, you have so many, like, unique personalities rolling around. You can delve into their backstory, like they were in the trailer, and you have so many more open avenues there.
Do we think we're going to see, like, proper talking, like actual dialogue this time round? Or is it going to stick more with the first one? Because I think you could still get across the different chapter personalities without dialogue. When you think about like what the Mortifactors do, the fact that, you know, we've got a Blood Angel successor, like you could show those differences without having to talk. But given that Games Workshop is now like producing it and is, you know, part of the process, I don't know, we might end up with a more secret level, but with like more dialogue, I guess.
I was about to ask, actually, is this just going to be a sort of like short animation? Or is this like an episodic thing that they're doing? Because that's going to differentiate whether or not they talk, right? Because if it's just one like 5-minute video that they put out, probably not going to have too much talking. But if it's like episodic and they're going to be telling a long-running Astartes 2 story, like, you know, you have room to let them like talk and show personality, right?
Well, that's the thing they haven't said. They've just said that it's dropping in 2026. So it's like there's a lot of kind of... It kind of feels like the first one, part of why it did so well was because it had a particular charm to it. So would they want to change that? But also, like, realistically, if you are hired by the company that you made a fan animation of this universe of, for Astartes. You enjoy it and love it that much that you put that much time and effort into it. If the company then says, okay, we want you to do this again, but with us, what do you need, or what do you want, or can we help? Would that then mean that you go, okay, well, the first one worked really well, but also, like Shai says, like no dialogue, purely budget consideration. It could well be that it was a case of, well, I can do all of this stuff myself. I can't, like, it's maybe not realistic to expect, full exposition style storyboarding and dialogue and script on top of that, and then to have voice acting done for it. Whereas this time round, it might be that those are all options that are completely open, because presumably the budget has massively increased, because it's not just one person doing it for the love of it.
Yeah.
It's one person doing it because they love it, but they also have the, support of the company that made the thing.
They have the massive resources of GW to really, like, if they wanted to do an episodic thing, they totally could.
Not to mention the fact that they have plenty of VA people out there. Plenty.
Oh, yeah.
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 What if one of the guys was just the dude who plays James Workshop in their videos? How quickly would that take you out?
That'd be funny.
Same cadence, same way of talking.
I think Secret Level did it arguably the best. At least when it comes to dialogue, it was very specific, very poignant, and every time anyone did speak, it was important. Like it mattered a lot. And I really did like that. But I don't know. I would be fine with more dialogue, but I really wouldn't mind it if there was like similar to Secret Level, where it was dialogue in the beginning, maybe some dialogue at the end, and it was just there for expository and slight assistance with setting things up, or just like maybe like chatter. I can totally imagine like a Space Marine doesn't talk much, but then they kind of like link into the Vox network, and it's a bunch of guardsmen just screaming and dying. You're like, all right, well, there's our dialogue quota for the episode.
Guardsmen screaming and dying over the Vox. Yep, that checks out.
Me doing the classic smoking duck gif, like, there they go, those guardsmen. There's some.
As Shai says as well, though, like, why show backstories and make characters of different chapters if they aren't going to be characters? Otherwise, they might as well just be, everyone be a Retributor again, which also
true.
Also makes sense. Yeah.
Devil's advocate on this one. People who are big bolter porn fans absolutely just want to see their favorite faction in their colors fight.
True, but you can make them characters while also giving them the bolter porn, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, I want the characters to exist, but I imagine like if you're going to have a whole bunch of stories about Space Marines, giving them a recolor is like a very easy change to be good for what you want, right? Like, this was all going to be Retributor story, but people kind of want to see other factions, so recolor these ones. We'll do it differently for them.
True.
It requires less work than expected.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time,
I see what you mean.
At the same time, though, I want to. Can you imagine we like open up the episode with the Angels and Carmine or whatever, and it's just a camera pan up to like a bathtub that's like overflowing in blood.
What starts it out like that shot from The Witcher where he's in the bath?
Yes,
but it's full of blood instead.
Yes, the PC Gamer article Witcher thing.
Full armored Space Marine, not even a naked one. He's in his armor in the bath with the blood.
Okay, okay.
Is this one of those moments where we can in the episode be like, "Hey, fan artists, I wonder if someone could really make this image happen."
I mean, okay, this is a huge nitpick, but I have to admit, I'm a little worried. They're making the Space Marines look too hot. We need to roll it back.
Do we though?
I saw the Secret Level episode. I was like, and then of course, like you have like Gadriel in Space Marine 2, and I'm like, he just looks like the Giga Shab. I'm like, this isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
Like Space Marines are supposed to look awful. They're like their entire faces are just nothing but like webs of scar tissue. We need to go back.
You already went through this with the sisters, right? You don't need to go through this again with the Space Marines.
No, I love it when the sisters are ugly. It's so good.
Yeah,
They're
no, I'm
supposed to
with you
be.
on that.
I'm
Yeah.
so
horrifically scarred and battle tested, and
It's awesome. It makes it look so gross and 40K and I need there's too many hot men. Reduce the hot men. I'm scared. My masculinity is being broken. I will always remember that Rogue Trader clip, not from the game, but from like the Rogue Trader, like the Janus Drake guy who went to a bar and there was like a Catachan dude sitting there and his face was like the ugliest thing he's ever seen. And it's because one of the like the face grabbers got him and he had to react quickly, so he cut his face off, and then he found like a dead comrade and cut his face off and put it on his.
Yeah,
and had
plastered on his face. Yep.
And had the admech just like surgically put it back on. He's like, I like my new face. He's like the most horrendous dude ever. So I need more of that stuff. Weird shit.
No, don't we all?
Staple.
Nah, but it's I'm okay. So wait, that's all the factions, right? Scythes, Angels and Carmine, Sons of Medusa, and then we don't really know much about the Retributors, right?
Yes, yeah. So I mean, in terms of like what they're fighting, they obviously it's Angels Vermilion. We didn't see them fight anything. They're just on a nice planet. But we do see the Mortifactors and the Scythes are both fighting Tyranids. We see the Retributors and the Sons of Medusa fighting Tau in some capacity. We see the Sons of Medusa, fighting stealth suits, but there is a shot of the Retributors like carrying it looks like a Tau, either citizen or soldier, is being carried by his head down some back streets, and there's some propaganda on the wall and stuff. And the worlds that they're fighting them on look to be very similar. So it might, I don't know, there might be like some crossover there where some of these characters have actually met before on previous battlefields, maybe. But then would that feel a bit too contrived if they're like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah, we executed Tau together like 70 years ago or something. Or would that just cement it a bit more? I'm not really sure which would be better, having a bit of like connectedness to begin with, or whether it's like they've never met before and now they're plunged into working together as a squad.
I think having a little connection is okay. I don't know if all of them should be, but like having one or two of them know each other from like a previous campaign or something. I don't think that'd be terrible. I just have a little extra camaraderie, right? And it's like, oh, they're comrades, but they don't know us, and make a little divide too,
Yeah, something to just pull a couple of them together. There we go. I love that shot. It's so, it really, really does seem like he's just carrying him by the head.
Like in
then
the
I
back
guess
it says
that strong.
The Emperor forgets on the wall.
Yeah,
yeah. That's a guardsman, right? It's not a cultist, is it?
I believe it's Tau.
Oh, it is Tau. You're right. I think I'm kind of seeing the vision a little bit. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it might have that. Yeah, I think that is Tau.
Oh, could be Tau's sided human. Yeah, it could be some Guavessa.
Yeah.
Oh,
that'd be fun to see them represented in some way.
We get to watch Space Marines kill guardsmen, but like Tau guardsmen.
We get to see them do what they did in the first Astartes, but they're just wearing a different hat. So it would still count, still be different. I think that the main thing is this one of those situations where Astartes 2 is kind of on the back foot just because of how good the first one was, how well received it was, how ubiquitous it became, where it was just everywhere. And then, obviously that was affected by Games Workshop yanking it off YouTube. And there's going to be such a significant gap between the two. I feel like the possibility of it not just living up to the first one, but like surpassing it is pretty high, because there's increased resources. There's what looks like wider scope just from that trailer. It looks like there's kind of wider scope going on. but it's been a long time. It's been a long time, and there's been a lot of time for people to think about it, and there's been a lot of time for people to speculate. And then we've got this kind of teaser as to this is not what you're going to see, but it is related to what you're going to see. Now you need to start thinking about what's going to happen. Is that opening the door to 1,000,001 extremely impossible scenarios that people are going to come up with, only for it to come out and then being like, oh, I convinced myself it was X, and it's not X.
The unfortunate tunnel vision.
I don't know.
I could see. I imagine that's going to happen with a lot of people that are going to convince themselves that because of what they saw in the trailer, like let's say it turns out to not be Death Watch, but we've kind of like convinced ourselves it's Death Watch. Are we going to be disappointed if it's not? Right?
I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed, so to speak. I feel like Death Watch has kind of done what they've been doing lately, and they're mostly going to be fine. I don't know. I think more than anything, because like obviously Astartes is a bolter porn type thing. That's the general concept of the show. And I like this kind of bolter porn the most, where it's mainly just about like massive brutality and showing off like how insane Space Marines are and yada yada. But I don't know. I guess I'm a little bit curious if we're going to run out of like interest in bolter porn and eventually like need something a bit more substantive. Because I feel like we all kind of did that bell curve ourselves at some point where we were like, oh yeah, it's so cool, Space Marine go punch. And then eventually we started wanting a bit more. Because then you read the books, right? And you're like, holy crap, these books are insanely good. And there's so much more than just that. They're diving into like philosophy and theory and all these other really crazy things. And I mean, it could be that like Astartes 2 is just another really good Astartes, and that's perfectly fine. That's what people want.
Mhm.
But I do wonder if eventually maybe it'll kind of advance to being more than that, and that'll be awesome because then we'll all, get it.
I feel like bolter porn kind of never goes out of style, though.
I definitely don't think so when it comes to Warhammer.
Yeah, there's always going to be a market for bolter porn.
I also think there's a demographical difference here. There's so many people who just got into it over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And so they're totally okay with more bolter porn. They are so fine with that.
Yep. And that might have been why they signed up just to begin with. Because they just love the bolter, love the action, love the crazy Space Marine combat, and they're still in that phase where that's all they want.
It could be,
which is valid.
Yeah, it very much could be. I don't know. I'm more than okay with more Astartes. I think Astartes is awesome, and just the general quality of the animation is what made it so good. And secret level. I guess to go to your thing, Kirioth, like secret level or Peterson worked on Astartes, got drafted by Games Workshop, and then if we fill in the blanks, the thing he was a part of was secret level, and so now that secret level's over, I would make the assumption that okay, now he's back to working on Astartes again. Hence why 2026.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I think also like what Shai said with depends on Games Workshop not meddling and just allowing them to do what they do well. I think that's definitely going to be a part of it. Like if it's kind of we need this to be in here for marketing purposes, that could very quickly get kind of obvious and a little bit it make it lose its magic a little bit. But if it's just a case of what story did you want to tell? Okay, we can help. That's like that would probably mean that whatever it ends up being, if it just means it's bigger in scope, if there's more things like access to being able to do dialogue and just more environments that it's possible to cover because of there not being, the time or just like manpower constraint of it just being one person doing all of it, which is still insane to this day that it was that polished and that well done for like a one person effort pretty much. It should be, if it's anything like the first one, then what we saw for Secret Level, I'm not that worried about it being like underwhelming. I'm just mainly interested to see how different it is, I guess.
Yeah, I think it requires expansion. Like Astartes is really good as it is in its own right, but like I would want something a little bit more substantive. And based on the simple fact that there are 4 factions, 4 Space Marine factions, multiple Xenos factions, it looks like it's going to be like a multi-episode show, not just a cool 10-minute video. Because if it was another cool 10-minute video for like 2.5 minutes each, and then we waited until 2026, I think people would be pretty annoyed. They'd be like, I mean, this is good, but this is not like I expected a little bit more.
Yeah, it is definitely leaning towards like a full on episodic.
Yeah.
Like it might even be seasonal. I doubt it, but like
Yeah,
definitely an episodic, long running thing.
or a movie. I take a feature length like hour and a half type deal. Totally.
Sure.
Could we if we push them really hard, could we get the Ultramarines movie too?
I was about to say the Ultramarines
get
film. good God. Could put in the running for the best sequel ever made, considering how bad the first one was.
Oh my God!
But I think I don't know. I do have a lot of faith because so far, he hasn't driven us wrong so far, and and also you know how much I hate my member berries. You know how much I hate my look, it's thing that people like because Star Wars burnt me and turned me into a cynical asshole.
Fair enough.
But I really like Secret Level because Secret Level had none of that. There was nothing like besides Titus. It was purely just like new weird takes on things.
Yeah,
It's like here's this weird Tzeentch demon for like a sorcerer, and here's like there's these cultists that are clearly Tzeentchian cultists. They got these weird bird masks. And it's like
Psyker sled.
Yeah, the Psyker coffin they dragged around.
Yeah.
It was totally new and like really cool. So yeah, I'm hoping.
Like familiar stuff, but what am I trying to say? Familiar stuff presented in a way that you're not familiar with. Like it's all themes that you know, it's all stuff that you recognize, but it's never been shown exactly like that. None of it felt like just a kind of yeah, there you go. That's the model that you know. Except now it's CG and flying around. Instead, it was all that stuff that you like, but just okay. But it's different, which is way more interesting if you've been like invested in the universe for a while, and also means that even like people who aren't would then be able to go away and look at other stuff that's Tzeentch based. And it would still be recognizable as being the same faction or the same idea overall.
Yeah, even the main villain of Space Marine 2, he was just like a random like exalted sorcerer or whatever he was for the Thousand Suns. But he was like he had his voice line delivery was so good that it was just like it's just like like this guy's cool.
I had to pay attention to him. Yeah.
I loved his. I always will love his little rant where he's like, the Council on Ikea is bullshit, and I'm like, yes, it is.
Let's go.
You're right.
Let's go.
It's so
Where's
good.
Magnus?
Where's? I know. Obviously, we not all of our Space Marine opinions were loved, but one of the ones I feel so proud of was just being like. That's when I finished the campaign. I'm like, I think people are gonna like this Dreadnought character. He has like 5 minutes and he's pretty cool. And I felt so validated. I was like, yes.
Everyone loves him.
Anyway, anything else you really want to hop on, Kirioth? Or I think we were chilling.
I think we've covered pretty much everything we can from 1 minute and 30 seconds of trailer.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Really puts the length of this episode into harsh perspective.
It does. See, you said about a month ago, and I was like, Kirioth, no, I don't want to talk about Wraithbone. I just don't want to talk about Wraithbone. Don't make the episode about that. And thank goodness for that one. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. Any final thoughts, ladies and gentlemen?
No thoughts, head empty.
Based as hell. Oh, Shy has one. Oh, I don't know how much
Yes.
he is. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Yes. So Possum helped with this. I sent the initial stuff over, and they've added some really good, helpful stuff. So yeah, quite a bit of what we ended up talking about was, I mean, like the quote for the Angels Vermilion was especially as soon as Possum added that in, I was like, that's awesome, and we need to use it. So thank you very much for the help with that. It's really good having having them
Possum's
around.
amazing.
They're great.
Possum is great.
Possum sent me this GIF. Oh dear God! How dare they accuse me of being British?
How am I catching strays at like the end of the episode?
People think Possum is Luton, so they just it's like, how dare they? All right, I'm getting out of here. See everybody.
Bye.